All right, from what is happening in the Mediterranean, let's now talk about what is happening in West Asia. And to do that, Shreya.
Well, let's tell our viewers, Eric, how Donald Trump has been faring. Remember, the Iran war has dragged on for over 5 months now since the United States and Israel dropped the first bomb on Iran. The region is stuck in a loop of attacks, a halt, talks, and attack again. US President Donald Trump has promised that it will be a quick war. In fact, he had been promising that. But now clearly he's scrambling for an exit that seems nowhere near. Missiles and drones flying across the Persian Gulf have not just destroyed energy and military sites, they've also hit Trump's approval ratings back home. Let's quickly tell you how a new poll conducted by AP NOC reveals a trend that will be hard to reverse for the US president, clearly before the upcoming midterm elections in November this year. Let's quickly decipher the numbers for you and understand the political cost of the Iran war for Donald Trump. First up, let's tell you how, according to the poll, 64% Americans say that the Iran war has not been worth fighting for anymore. And just 33% say yes. They say that they support the continued war against Iran by the United States. Let's also break down this number further and look at party-wise trends for you before the midterm elections in America. Republicans, remember, hold the lion's share of those who support the continuous war on Iran with 61%. That's the Republicans' number right now that support the Iran war. On the contrary, there's only 10% Democrats who've been voicing their opinions against the Iran war, who think that, this war is worthy. And independents, they stand at 26%, and, they say that the Iran war is worth fighting for. Now, 87% of the Democrats do not find the war worth fighting for. 37% Republicans say that this war is not worthy, and 68% independents say that this war is not worth fighting for. Let's also quickly dive deeper and look at how these numbers are affecting Donald Trump's approval ratings, remember, on the Iran war, particularly considering the fact that they have been lower than how it was in the beginning when he had taken oath. Now, according to this poll, which has been carried out by AP NOC, Donald Trump's approval ratings on the Iran war stand at 28%. And you see the number comprises 61% Republicans. This is the breakdown. 61% Republicans say that, they're against it. 17% of independents and 4% Democrats. But majority of the Republicans, remember, still back Donald Trump's war on Iran. But why is this data so alarming for the US president? Let's tell you. At the start of the Iran war, remember, 70% Republicans had supported Donald Trump's decision to fight Iran. But as this war has been dragging on and still drags on, he's clearly lost the approval among the Republicans nearly every month. Look at this trajectory. From 70%, it's gone down to 68, 71, and then at 61% between June and July. Now, Trump's approval on the Iran war has seen the sharpest dip of 10% since it began on the 28th of February. This is what we are showing you, that entire dip that has come in his approval ratings. This decline is a worrying sign for the US president as we draw closer to the high-stakes midterm elections in November this year. But how are these numbers affecting Trump's overall approval ratings? Well, the story remains the same. If we look at the overall approval of Donald Trump's presidency, you have the numbers here coming up right from January till July this year. At the start of the war, Donald Trump's job approval stood at 40%. That's the number, at 40%. It went down by 4% in February. That's when the war began. Recovered by 2% in March. And then it continued downward spiral in April and recovered to 37% in May and June. Now, Donald Trump's job approval has dropped again by 4%, and it stands, as you can see, at 33% in July this year. So overall, the total decline in Donald Trump's approval rating since January is 7%. Now, Trump could pay political cost of this decline in November when the midterms happen and when the House of Representatives and 1/3 of the U.S. Senate seats will be up for grabs. If Democrats manage to capitalize on Donald Trump's declining approval ratings, Republicans risk losing control of both chambers of the Congress. That eventually could bring more logjams in the Congress and longer government shutdowns, which is clearly a concern domestically for all American citizens.